Quick facts with Franklin. I hope you learned something. Love you. Bye. 5 islands rise from the Pacific, like a world that forgot to end. 8 species live here and nowhere else on Earth. When the sea rose 15,000 years ago, it cut these islands off from the mainland, and evolution went to work in total isolation. The island fox weighs just 2 to 6 pounds. It is the smallest wild dog on the continent. This is not a metaphor for the Galapagos. This is the real thing. These islands were never attached to California. They broke free from the mainland when rising seas drowned the coastal plain. Every species left behind began a separate evolutionary journey across thousands of years. Each island developed its own ecosystem, its own rules, its own version of survival. The tectonic forces that pulled them away also locked them in place, creating a natural laboratory that still runs experiments today. Nothing here arrived by accident. The mammoths did not disappear here, they shrank. Columbian mammoths crossed over when the sea level dropped and exposed the land. Over thousands of generations, 10-ton giants compressed themselves to 6 feet and 1,000 pounds. Island dwarfism forced them to adapt or starve on terrain that could not sustain their former size. Pygmy mammoths stood barely taller than a horse on Santa Rosa Island, grazing on plants no mainland creature would touch. Beneath the surface, 150 shipwrecks form the foundation of an underwater forest. Kelp towers 100 feet tall grow over the bones of sunken vessels. Maritime disaster became habitat for over 1,000 marine species. The kelp forest rivals tropical rainforests in biomass. Every sunken hole is a reef now. Every anchor chain is a trellis for life that refuses to leave. To learn more about the Channel Islands, visit the National Park Service website. To experience it, view the live broadcasts or book a ferry from Ventura Harbor. These islands are what California looked like before the freeways. The reporter's image is wrong. Florence Nightingale was a statistician who weaponized data to save thousands of soldiers from preventable disease. A newspaper correspondent invented the famous scene of her walking dark corridors with an oil lamp during the Crimean War. Her actual work happened at a desk buried in mortality tables, proving that dirty sheets killed more men than enemy bullets. Nightingale arrived at a British military hospital in 1854 and found conditions that defied every standard of human decency and basic sanitation. The floors were coated in filth. Soldiers slept in their own waste, while rats crawled through the corridors unchecked by any medical authority or government oversight. 10 men fell to preventable disease for every one killed by Russian fire, and she quickly understood that the hospital itself was the real battlefield. She invented the polar area diagram and turned rows of death into a picture nobody could look away from. The numbers told a brutal story. After she reorganized sanitation protocols across the facility, the mortality rate collapsed from 42% to 2%. British lawmakers finally saw what the military had ignored for months. Her visual proof forced immediate reform across every military hospital in the empire. She spent 53 years confined to a bed, yet from that single room she designed the blueprint every modern hospital still follows. She could not walk. Government ministers visited her bedroom to discuss public health policy, all of it directed by a woman who never left her sofa. To learn more about Florence Nightingale, read her publications. Notes on nursing remain startlingly relevant over a century later. She proved that good intentions mean nothing without evidence to back them up. Compassion without data is just guessing. She reminds us that the people we remember are rarely the ones we think we know. Deep pine forests, wild blueberries, and the freshest lobster on Earth. Welcome to Maine. Augusta sits quietly as the capital, but the real energy pulses along a jagged coastline that could stretch to California. The Pine Tree State joined the Union in 1820, bringing a spirit of independence to the northern coast. Over 5,000 ships have been lost off these rocky shores, earning Maine the title, the graveyard of the Atlantic. Cadillac Mountain is the first place in the USA to greet the sun. Meet the black-capped chickadee, Maine's official state bird. It doesn't just survive Maine's brutal winters, it hacks them. It drops its body temperature down 12 degrees, basically going into power-saving mode. You'll find them year-round in the Acadia white pine forests. They're cheerful DDD cutting through spruce and fir. The chickadee is a true character of Maine, tiny, unbothered, and completely refusing to let winter win. Clouds are not floating, they are falling. Every droplet in every cloud is pulled downward by gravity at 1 centimeter per second. Warm air rushing upward pushes harder than gravity pulls down. The cloud looks still because the battle is perfectly balanced. When the rising air stops, the cloud rains itself out from the bottom. Water vapor cannot become a cloud on its own. It needs a skeleton to build on. A speck of dust, a grain of sea salt, a fragment of pollution each provide the surface where vapor condenses into liquid. Without these invisible seeds, the atmosphere would need 400% humidity to form a single drop. Nucleation sites let clouds appear at barely 100%. The sky is full of microscopic junk doing the most important work in meteorology. Inside every rain cloud, a quiet theft is underway. Ice crystals steal water vapor from nearby liquid droplets. Frozen surfaces hold moisture more tightly than liquid surfaces can. Each crystal grows heavier, while the droplets shrink toward nothing. The ice eventually falls through the cloud and melts into raindrops on the way down. Most rain that reaches the ground started as snow. This is the Bergeron process, and it runs in rain clouds everywhere on Earth. The type of cloud overhead determines whether Earth warms or cools. The decision is binary. Thick, white cumulus reflects 90% of sunlight back into space. Thin cirrus does the opposite and traps heat radiating from the surface, like a blanket. These two cloud types pull climate in opposite directions. Which type dominates as the planet changes is one of the biggest uncertainties in our climate future. To learn more about cloud comparisons, read about cloud physics and cloud climatology, which studies the cloud formation process and Earth's impact. The sky above is a battlefield of rising and falling air. The atmosphere runs on forces you cannot see. I hope you learned something. If not, let's watch again. Love you. Bye.